Welcome to partialarc.com. Don't do that.
Do you want to hear a story? I'm not letting go.
Are you ready for this?
Follow your heart.
I'm going in.
This is
Blockbuster Punch-Up.
Welcome to Blockbuster Punch-Up. This is episode 11. I'm your host, Jay Jones, and I'm joined by my co-host and film enthusiast, Todd G. Levin.
Yes, you are.
So guys, with the holiday season just passing over a month ago and a lot of movies hitting the market, there were a bunch of options out there, but instead of doing what some might have expected, maybe The Hobbit, maybe Annie, we decided
to go biblical and go back in time to ancient Egypt.
Oh yes, we are going with
Exodus.
Gods and Kings. The Christian Bale, Ridley Scott film. It is some good times, fellas, at the movie theater.
Yeah, and that other guy, Engelbert Humperdinck.
Engelbert Humperdinck. Joel Edgerton?
That's it.
That guy. So, guys, as we do with the beginning, we're going to go into a recap of the film, being Exodus, Gods and Kings. Again, if you haven't seen the film,
It's probably a good time to turn off
the podcast, maybe see the film, then turn it back on.
Or just listen to the podcast, because you probably don't need to.
Probably don't. Todd, please take us away with the recap.
Here we go. We open in ancient Rome, where an auspicious emperor, Marcus Aurelius, is torn between his son and heir Commodus and his favorite adopted son, General Maximus Decimus Meridian. Oh, what? It's not?
Hold on a second.
Ancient Egypt, you say? Well, you wouldn't know it.
You wouldn't know it, because this film certainly feels like it was Gladiator.
At least in the beginning.
Yeah, it's like two warriors vying for the love of a father figure. One is kind of a jerk, and one is clearly the better that everyone loves as their quote-unquote general.
Yep, and who is exiled. Anyway, here's the all-familiar tale we all know, that of the Bible, though barely recognizable here from the canon. Ramses and Moses grow up as brothers-in-arms, sons of Seti, and princes of Egypt. A prophecy is made before a great battle that the leader would be saved. The man who saved the leader would one day become the leader. So naturally, that happens.
Definitely does happen.
The end. Do I have to keep... All right.
I think we have to keep going. There's a little more to the film.
So there's a bit more.
A very interesting short film Ridley Scott made. Just only about 10, 15 minutes long.
That's the kind of the basic thrust, right?
The thrust of the film.
That's about as much as they took from the source material. So Moses saves Ramses during the battle against the poor and defenseless Hittites who were loitering outside the department store of Egypt. And soon suspicion sets in for dear old Ramses. But if you expected that string of thought to pan out, wait, there's more!
Oh.
The now sick and dying Seti, played by John Turturro, who looks ravishing.
He does.
In eyeliner, with a bald head
so
and sequined headpiece, orders Ramses to check out this Viscount guy of a local district. Moses volunteers as tribute and leaves Ramses to play with his snakes.
Quite a few snakes. Giant snakes that he loves to tease and take venom shots.
Yeah, he loves those venom shots. Snake
Weird
shots.
Guy.
There, Moses learns his true upbringing, which he refuses to believe so hard that he murders 2 guards who mistake him for a slave, all seen and overheard by 2 thieves.
Just...
Straight up murder.
I reject this reality so hard, I'm going to commit wholesale murder.
No!
On I imagine 2 comrades, because they're like guards. They're not just
they're Egyptians.
They're not like thieves in the night, just give me a gold.
Right.
By the way, aren't you Moses? And
hey, our general.
Oh, hey.
Death.
Oh, hey, a guy we most definitely, certainly know.
And then, in breakneck speed, Seti dies, Ramses takes his place, challenges Moses to disprove the rumor the 2 thieves overheard by threatening to chop Miriam's arm off. Moses stops him, confirms the rumor, is banished, and then Sigourney Weaver sends 2 assassins to kill him. Yes, Sigourney Weaver happens to be in this movie.
Sigourney.
We think.
We're pretty sure.
I'm pretty sure that was her.
Couple scenes probably left on the cutting room floor.
Because, in the credits it said Sigourney Weaver
and there. Sigourney Weaver.
And I think I saw a shade of a person.
She had a line in there, I think. She was like, yes, or get him, something like that. Really lines that you want a very, spirited, very, tenured actress like Sigourney Weaver to deliver.
Very respected actress. You really
those
need
very important moments.
Those very important moments where you need someone to cough. Well, Moses takes care of those guys because he's good at killing.
Because he's pretty good at killing. We've established that he quite literally stabs most people that he meets.
He wanders around, finds a little shepherd's village, marries, has a kid, goes hiking during a storm with some sheep, gets hit on the head by the side of a mountain, and wakes up in a mud bath by a soothing fireplace, accompanied by the last airbender. God, appearing to Moses and confusing the audience in the form of a little boy, tells him he needs to be a general for a battle. Moses goes insane, leaves his wife and son, travels back to Egypt, starts a rebel faction of domestic terrorists who attack the city, steal and loot, and set fire to their grain supply. God Jr. is impatient with Moses, tells him to sit back and show him how it's done, releasing the plagues we were all excited for, which of course starts with the first plague, giant alligators.
Giant alligators. We remembered it. We were waiting for it to happen.
The old favorite, giant alligators.
I think the second one was a kraken came in at some point and just started eating everybody. Just really interesting takes on the
second
classic
plague
crocodile
was
kraken
smelly
plague.
fish.
Smelly fish plague.
And then the next one...
Fly tickling plague.
Was fly tickling. And excessive veil wearing.
Excessive veil wearing. The classic ones.
All the classic plagues that you just know and love.
And Moses was super proactive about letting them know about these plagues, right? Like, he definitely goes in this movie and makes it very clear that these plagues are happening.
Right, by sitting on
the mountain
pretty far away.
Very far away.
Watching it. I'm not sure he must have great eyesight.
He probably
a nice pair of binoculars.
Very conflicted sitting, very conflicted
contemplative.
Contemplative pacing.
Contemplative Moses and continually insane.
We're pretty sure Moses is going to end up being the hero, but who knows? I mean,
at this point it's all
we don't know.
Up in the air.
We're going to see.
So, no dice. Finally, Moses just asks Ramses to reconsider, which is a novel approach.
Yeah.
Then, when he's refused, offers a mysterious, indecipherable warning threatening Ramses' kid, and then backs away slowly. Dude, that's fine. You don't want to let my people go. That's cool. You just might want to, look after your kid tonight. I'm just saying. I
mean, that's not a threat.
What
are you trying to say? You trying to say something might happen to you? I don't know, Ramses. Kids these days, they fall downstairs. You don't know. I'm just saying. Have a good evening.
Well, the angel of death passes over, kills every child not protected by lamb's blood, and Ramses orders them to go. The Israelites leave. Ramses gives them a 4-day head start, then pursues them, where Moses throws his sword in anger, which doesn't exactly part the sea, but just lowers the tide and lets the Israelites across.
Almost that part the Red Sea moment.
What begins to look like an epic battle that's going to
in the most
ensue.
Epic of situations.
Right, with the waters rushing in, and Moses and Ramses are going toe-to-toe with each other, and they're about to fight, and probably the sea's gonna just stop right before they get there and let them fight a little bit because we bought tickets to the movie and it was in Dolby Atmos.
Yep.
Well, none of that happens. The seas just completely destroy them.
It does not care if Moses is there or
it doesn't
whatever.
care about anything. That sea's
slams
just gonna slam right into them and kills everyone else except for the two people in the middle of this entire ocean.
Who got hit by a full wave.
Who got hit by two waves on both sides. Mm-hmm. Moses and Ramses on two different shores actually survive death. Moses and Mini-God get together in a cave to talk about the Israeli rave scene. They forge the 10 Commandments, post them to Facebook, and Moses carries them off into a wagon, off into the sunrise.
Well, oh man, that was our recap.
That's it.
Of Exodus, Gods, and Kings, guys, which takes us right into our punch up.
Punch up. Now, Jay, I'm seeing stars, but Was Aaron Paul and Ben Kingsley in this movie too? Or am I just seeing
No, I
things?
know I hit you really hard there, but no, you're right. You're correct. Aaron Paul and Ben Kingsley were in this film.
Okay.
Man, Ridley Scott...
We've got Sir Ben Kingsley in this movie.
Ridley Scott just gets any favors. He's like, how many other lines do we have left to fill? Well, we've got like 15 lines that could be said by really anybody.
Sigourney Weaver's role.
What about Sigourney Weaver and Aaron Paul?
Set one day and they just like threw her a line, you know?
Yeah, put her some eye makeup and fuck it, you're SETI's wife now.
Like, wait, what? She's in the... Because the thing is, what's so... the other ones, Ben Kingsley and Aaron Paul, they're actual characters in the movie. They just don't get a lot to do. With
I was going to say, that's a very giving statement to say they are characters in this film.
Right, but, like Sigourney Weaver is actually shown several times in the beginning, but almost like in the background and panned by.
Yeah, we pan by Sigourney Weaver.
It's like, wait,
4 or 5 times.
Is that Ripley?
Pretending like that's not fucking Sigourney Weaver.
Right.
Like,
pretending that's
like
just
it's
not
just
that
like,
important.
oh, this is just another person, and she's like, look, she's giving, like, there's shots with just her in it, and we still have yet her to speak.
She hasn't said
or
anything.
interact with any of the characters.
And then the scene where she does say something, we're like, okay,
here we go.
Oh, it's over already.
And she's gone from the movie.
She's gone for the entire film. Like,
and I think, before we get off track here about Sigourney Weaver...
But you know what? That's a really important
true.
factor. Like, you have these people in your movie and you're not utilizing them. That is almost like having a biblical story and not utilizing the
biblical story
of what that is. There's a reason that story is that story. It's being told for millennia.
Yeah.
And it is an
not many stories
story.
can say that.
You can't say that for heist films.
I mean, people are pretty protective about the source material of fictional characters that have been around for 75 years, let alone something that's been around for a millennia. Right,
millennia. Like multiples of thousands of years these stories have been around. And this one is a pretty big one.
Yep.
In the Bible there. It's next to, the whole Jesus thing.
Yeah,
it's a big one.
And as you guys can already tell, we probably have a huge list of things we loved about this film. So, because we do not want to waste your time, let's definitely get into that. So first and foremost, Aaron Paul's beard
Aaron
was
Paul
pretty
has
cool.
a beard. It's a scraggly beard in this movie, and his gross teeth.
And he has gross teeth. Everybody has gross teeth.
Oh, that's right. You know what? Everybody has. But Aaron Paul's deserves recognition.
Yeah, some pretty good Academy recognition for how disgusting it was.
Let's see.
I heard on set he refused to touch a toothbrush. He drank only coffee
he's a method guy, huh?
regularly every day to really taint those teeth.
Wow.
But yeah, so Aaron Paul had a pretty nice beard.
What else?
Ridley Scott can still shoot a battle scene pretty decently well.
Oh, yeah.
There's some cool sword clankings and some fights and some pole stabbiths. The clanks were good. The sound editing is really great in this film.
That's right.
There's some cool visual stuff at the end of the film. The waves coming crash. The waves look really epic and massive.
There's all the twisters.
The twisters making the waves, really doing a lot of. They were doing something.
And then
I think Aquaman was fighting a sea monster.
Is that why
Aquaman was fighting that Kraken we mentioned earlier? That second plague, the Kraken. He was fighting it.
I see.
That was the side story. But guys, I'm glad you made it through that. That was a long list of good things we had to say. Let's talk about. There's a few things that we had some issues with.
In the critique column, I would place the movie and its storytelling. Some of the characters that are all of them.
Most of them. Starting with most characters that begin with an A in their name, all the way to Z.
All the way
probably.
over there to Z.
So let's address right away.
Right.
Is this film a perfect adaptation of the biblical story of Moses and the Israelites leaving Egypt?
You've got Moses growing up as the adopted son of Seti and the brother of Ramses.
Check, ding.
Check. Right?
There are Israelites
there. There are Israelites who are slaves.
Yep, they're slaves.
Of the Egyptian Pharaoh and his people.
That's in there as well.
That's in there. That's good.
There's a bush at one point is on fire.
A bush is on fire. Moses finds out his true lineage as one of the Jewish people. And he is exiled.
He is exiled. All of these things are in the movie.
That's all there.
Check,
he comes
ding.
back and he tries to get Ramses to let his people go, so to speak.
Sort of.
Kinda.
He doesn't actually say that.
He infers it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
At Blade Point.
That
By the way, very interesting take on Moses returning to Egypt to counsel with his brother. It's not the scene that some might be used to or think of, where Moses would come up to the prince, the now pharaoh, and say, "Ramses, my old brother, old buddy, old pal.
Yeah.
Dude, I'm sorry to do this, but you really got to let my people go.
You should let the people
really
go.
Should.
You should.
But instead of like a warm brotherly interaction or like, I haven't seen you in a while, what's up with the staff?
Right. Moses comes back. He's been living in the fucking mountains for like 10 years. Mm-hmm. Imagine your friend comes back, your brother comes back. You haven't seen him in 10 years. He's been living in the mountains. You think he's dead. He's got this crazy beard, looks like a homeless person, probably smells like one.
Acts a little bit like a homeless person.
Acts like an insane person.
There's an exchange.
And then holds a sword to your throat.
Ramses is like...
Imagine.
In the middle... Just imagine this scene. Because it's not like it was in this movie.
You'd be like, you sound like a crazy person. Which is Ramses' line.
He said
you sound like a crazy person.
And it's odd for us as audience watchers, because Ramses is in this, if you remember from the film, he's in there admiring his nice horses, just on a nice evening stroll. He's not like he's not like beating anybody or doing anything terrible. He's just kind of perusing his palace. Right. And Moses sneaks up on him with a blade and like very like almost crazily is like, "Haha, I'm gonna kill you, buddy. You gotta let my people go."
Because this guy told me, and his name is God.
And he like says it like very crazily. It's like, who says it to you? He's like, "God told me."
Yeah, and he sounds like a fanatic.
Crazy.
He sounds like an insane guy. Which, hey, that's actually a very interesting thing to play upon, right? Mm-hmm. Someone returning to you and sounding like a religious fanatic. I'm sure lots of people can like relate to something like that. You know, like people kind of like going a different way, and then they sound like a different person or something. That's kind of interesting, but that's not where this movie goes necessarily. In that scene, we side with Ramses.
We're like, I know Moses, we're supposed to hate Ramses.
Moses, you're acting a little kooky right now.
Right now. Not our hero.
Not humble.
Nope.
And in no way likable.
Yeah.
In that one scene.
One of the big things, at no point in this film did I really feel like I was rooting for our hero.
The hero or the
and
people,
I use the term hero very passively.
That were the subjugated people that we're supposed to be rooting for, the Israelites. They're not depicted very well. I wouldn't say it's easy to throw out words like anti-Semitism.
Right.
In a movie like this, people, threw that out with Passion of the Christ and, the movies before and stuff like that. Here, it's very easy to do it again, but it's really, it's just part of the story, and unfortunately...
It's really just part of any storytelling.
It's part of any storytelling that has a people that are subjugated who happen to be Jewish.
We have to,
but we have to like them.
We have to side with them. We want to be with our hero, being like, yes, this is wrong.
They deserve redemption and a bit of revenge, against these oppressors.
Exactly.
In this movie, these guys are not represented very well.
No.
We are told they're slaves. It's almost as if we're supposed to just, the Israelites, they were slaves. We all know that. And that is supposed to be the thing that endears us to them without spending any screen time real estate developing why we should feel for these people. And that's such a huge problem. That's how most of the movie, I think, treats a lot of the subject material.
It basically leans on the subject matter. Yeah. It relies on the subject matter to fill in the emotions and feelings you should be feeling without actually displaying them on screen. And that's a big problem. So kind of covering, is this film a biblical adaptation? No. But let's look at it as a story.
Right. So as a story, exactly. Canon aside, and that not being, we're not able to use that as a crutch for, to point at. The movie itself that we're told here, we've got these two brothers. Mm-hmm. One's an adopted brother, one's the son of this pharaoh. Trusts Moses, his adopted son, to lead the people more.
Again, our throwback to how this film is basically Gladiator.
But there's tons of like who's going to be the heir and family squabbles and struggles.
And
all
that's
this
very, very interesting stuff. It's meaty
stuff. But they don't realize it. But
we start to sow some interesting drama in the family, which we're like waiting for this scene where maybe Ramses confronts Moses,
right?
Or Moses confronts Ramses. Who knows? Moses saying, "I don't want to be leader. You're a leader." Whatever. We have powerful scenes that never happen. We instead get Ramses gets like some weird information from a guy they shouldn't trust anyway.
There's
like they straight up
random guys and Israelites They're his own people.
It's just crazy, this interchange of how Ramses and Moses come to this revelation that Moses is actually Hebrew. And like, even after this happens,
I mean, it's like some of that's in the story in the Bible, but it doesn't play. It doesn't play.
It can be
in
handled
this,
so much better.
Especially the arm cutting off. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
That was
it can
a
also
little,
the revelation can be so much more powerful because like we have this intense scene that's then immediately it's almost the air is let out by the second follow-up scene, which is where we meet Sigourney Weaver for the first time, and and Ramses is sitting there saying like, oh, I don't really want him to be exiled.
I don't want to believe it. And she's like, well, too bad he's going to be exiled.
Too bad. And then he's exiled.
And then cut to middle of the desert.
And the warrior has found a place to hang up his spurs
To
lay some ground and
he meets
be
this
a family man.
Woman, I forget her name in the Bible. Sorry, people.
Sorry, everybody.
But
he's fact-checking us.
He meets this woman. He marries her. He has a son. 9 years later, he's a shepherd. Then he goes up to this mountain, and we meet God physically in the form of a small boy who seems like a petulant little kid.
Yeah, throughout this whole movie, God is portrayed as this, like, basically a kid with a temper tantrum. He's just like, meh, I want you to do these things, and, like, I'll show them. And
then when Moses doesn't, wrestles with God, so to speak, God's angry, but in the way, because it's the voice of a little kid coming from a little kid's mouth, he's just like, why don't you listen to me? For 400 years... Really, Moses?
Really?
400 years? And it's just like, I mean, he doesn't sound like that, but
pretty close.
Almost. And that's an interesting take on God, if you were making a comedy.
Yeah.
And so throughout the film, this face of God doesn't really feel
this is the team we're rooting
strong.
for.
This is the team we're rooting for. A shitty little kid.
Yep.
A guy who's become a mountain man and is kind of crazy. Who's become a religious fanatic and then leads a people who we don't know yet into what kind of feels like domestic terrorist situations where they go back and they sort of like start pillaging and burning and looting and all this stuff, and it's like a little bit like, a story you're trying to tell here.
Which side are you trying to show?
These are the people that we're
here?
supposed to be voting for and rooting for in this story, and we don't really like them very much.
Not really.
All of these people.
Everybody's just like, all we're seeing, and we're seeing tons of Egyptians and people getting eaten by crocodiles.
We kind of
like,
feel bad for the Egyptians.
We shouldn't, but we do.
Yeah.
I keep seeing all these characters, the wife of Ramses, I feel so bad for her, and
it's
her
like,
kid.
Oh, man, that's
we
a
see
shame.
the baby Ramses' kid a bunch.
They lose the baby, the last plague, right? The children of Egypt. And there's this one shot of Ramses' wife, and she's just like furiously rocking the bed where her now dead son used to be, listless, like he staring off into space. And it's like harrowing because we don't understand the plight of the people, the Israelites, and we don't get a real good sense of why we should not like the Egyptians necessarily. Because of those things, that scene plays against Moses.
It does.
We're like, that's kind of evil. And then when Ramses asks Moses, what kind of God kills children? We ask ourselves the same question.
Everybody sitting in the audience had probably a moment where they were like, that was pretty harsh.
That was pretty dark,
and
man.
The problem with this is, the big problem with this, which will probably, so if we take a look at this in segments, the Israelites.
Yeah.
One big problem with this film,
people.
we do not care enough for the people.
We need to know the movement, the people,
Yeah. Two is going to be the brothers, the relationship between the brothers here, the family, the
Family
struggle,
ties.
the drama.
Right.
Nothing there. The third would be our hero of the film, or our hero team, is really kind of conflicted and weak because of these first two things.
Right.
So by the end of this film, we're kind of left with like, I guess, yay!
Well before the end of the film.
Well before the end of the film.
We don't really care for most of the movie, but you're right. By the end of the movie, we're just kind of like...
It didn't feel like a victory. It didn't feel like freedom. It didn't feel like...
That's right.
We did it! So how do we punch this film up?
Yeah.
So
where do you begin?
Where do we start?
So the beginning is pretty good. It's a good place.
Yeah. So let's start at the core beginning of this film, the family, and Moses' family specifically.
Where Moses grows up.
So now we have a more tighter-knit family. We can have scenes of Ramses and Moses interacting more than just battle scenes and being like, I'm eating grapes and playing with snakes. We're brothers.
Yeah, and it's in there. It's already in there. I love this gladiator concept, the Marcus Aurelius concept of he favors Moses, which Ramses can always know that Moses is the favorite son. So we get this, it's already like in there, like a little pestilence that's in Ramses' ear.
If we establish a stronger family core, then as we progress in this film, when Moses is eventually exiled, when Moses comes back, and, you know, with the eventual death of the Pharaoh's son, these are bigger punches, more impactful scenes, more difficult scenes for both of them.
That's right.
If there is this stronger foundation of love and care for one another. So when we're meeting this family as well, we're getting to know him and Ramsey better. We can get to know Sigourney Weaver and how she
comes in,
and, you know, really lay in this groundwork that she doesn't like Moses.
She doesn't like, because she knows the truth.
She knows the truth, or she, at least she suspects.
Right.
We can build in a little bit more of this deception, a little bit this snake nut like background in Ramsey's family. So it's not just Sigourney Weaver comes out of nowhere and is like, I don't like you, and it's like, yeah, we know you don't like me, and that's the only line of dialogue that explains that at all.
And how interesting is it to have, there's a pharaoh who's a bit oblivious, and then everyone around him is vying for the throne.
Exactly.
You know,
so we have a little bit more of this kind of Game of Thronesy environment in the pharaoh's palace.
Except Moses is the one who, like, doesn't, he's just
He
happy
doesn't
to
play
be
that
there,
game.
he
Loves the brother, which of course these other players don't like, because if you're not part of the game, they're gonna take you off the board essentially.
Which they do. So this room, so Moses goes out. This comes into play when, you know, we go out and we meet the people. Well, another thing that we had a problem with here is, like, the plight of the people.
Yeah, there's no plight.
Well,
there is, but
not really described here or shown. Keyword shown.
Yeah.
We go out. There's slaves. Okay. But, like, let's say maybe because Ramses is busy with things in the palace, Moses is the one that goes, and maybe he understands the people. He goes and he talks with them. Like we said, he kind of takes care of some of the things that
these
Ramses,
extra tasks that Ramses can't deal with.
He's above that. He says it in the movie.
Yeah, they have the line.
You're above all that. I'll go, you know, mix with the you know, the people and all that kind of stuff. And with this, Moses can start to understand who they are and maybe have a bit of compassion for them.
You even have an opportunity, let's say, you know, how Moses goes out and in the film he meets the viceroy or whoever it is who's running this area, and the viceroy is like in the thick of where most of the Hebrew and the Israelites are in this film. What could have been interesting is maybe, you know, Moses finds out he is, like, you know, doing shady stuff with taxes, which he does. Right. He, like, builds himself this lavish palace. Maybe Moses takes over this man's station, this man's stead, which also can still lead into this guy wanting revenge. But with Moses taking over his stead now, he is now daily interacting with the Israelites, and maybe Ben Kingsley is since he's an elder, maybe he's the one that the viceroy would typically have contact with. So now we have Ben Kingsley coming in as almost a mentor. You know, at first he's a servant or a slave that, you know, just works with Moses in interacting with the Israelites in this area, but slowly and steadily it is revealed to be more of a wise mentor-like character. Right. And now he works more gradually into, well, Moses, you're seeing this from all very far. Why not come onto the streets and meet the people more personally if you want to understand us and how maybe...
So Moses is a ruler in and of himself in this small capacity. Which makes him, because he's a compassionate fellow, he is better equipped to rule and better with the people, which makes someone like Ramses see this and how good he is at ruling and how bad he is
again
at ruling.
Growing that seed a little bit more
along
distrust.
with the family. Somehow it comes out that Moses is Moses. It becomes this huge scandal in the palace.
And maybe Moses is pushing for some big change at the exact same time, is pushing for, like, well, maybe we shouldn't do so many of these bad things.
Because he started to
trust
see
them.
The plight of the people.
Maybe we don't need these giant Ramses statues that you want to build, and it's that
and
perfect...
maybe Ramses is feeling that too. Maybe Ramses is like, maybe my brother's right, but he's torn between his brother who he loves and he trusts,
and all the dark whisperings in his ears.
And the dark whisperings of his family.
And it's just the perfect straw to break the camel's back, and we have this terribly wonderful,
finding out that he is an Israelite.
This heartbreaking scene where these two brothers are ripped apart, and Moses must be exiled. You know, the brother first, you know, they speak of treason and killing him and execution, but the brother fights for letting him escape. Maybe the brother helps him escape.
Yeah, maybe he is supposed to be executed, and at the Ramses helps him just escape. Just get out of town. Don't tell anybody. Just never come back. And here's where God comes in. And however you want to do this.
However you want to do this.
Well, just maybe not a shitty little kid.
Yeah, a kid who's just like knocking over stones and like, man, I need a general to stab people. And it's like, what?
God needs a guy to
Can't you like, you made a bunch of crocodiles later in this film. Isn't that like, why need...
So however you want to do it. If you want to do a burning bush, if you want to do the metaphor of a burning bush. So he's broken, he's lost. And by the way, in the meantime, his people are suffering. You know, so maybe in this moment with the burning bush, he gets images and flashes. Again, abstract, however you want to do this.
However you want to do this.
He gets images and flashes of like what's been going on in his absence, his 9-year absence. Ramses has taken over. He's become a bit of a madman through probably the poison of his family members, you know, the Sigourney Weaver character. Pride Rock has been overrun with hyenas.
We've got, you know, big Mufasa in the clouds has had his moment with Moses. I'm serious. That would have still been powerful, like, you need your people, need you. Whatever it is. Maybe not on the nose as that.
The Lion King isn't a bad movie.
It's not a bad movie at all, guys. We love that scene. The Lion King to the love story. The Mufasa scene in the sky. Have that powerful, make it feel like, yes, you've got to go back, you've got to save your people.
That's right, and Moses feels the call.
We want to have that upwelling music of just like, fuck yeah, Moses, let's do it.
And maybe he's reluctant, right? Mm-hmm. But he has to go back. He feels the need to, or maybe something happens in his home life. He thinks about it for a little bit. He's reluctant to go, but then something calls him more, and he goes. I don't know
maybe
what.
You know, whatever it is.
A messenger.
A quiet conversation with his son, even though who cares?
Another traveler, maybe.
Something.
Who tells him about
what's happening in Egypt. Who knows?
It doesn't matter. A raven with a little message. We
just know that he has exactly, he knows what he's got to do. And he heads back.
He needs to go back and do something that is going to be very dangerous.
And he's going to put his life on the line, and he's going to be active.
Yeah, right.
Moses is going to come back. Now, this is where you can borrow a little bit from what we've seen, maybe in, like, if you've seen the animated film Prince of Egypt, or if you've seen 10 Commandments, or any kind of interpretation. Moses is going to come back and is going to walk, you know, right up. You know, maybe they might try to arrest him or whatever it is. Who knows?
They probably don't even recognize him.
They don't even recognize him. That's true. They don't, I think, in old interpretations. He looks like a
crazy man.
So he returns. They don't recognize him. He goes up. You know, Ramses and him can have this moment where, like, he'll see that Ramses has changed and he can see that Moses has changed.
Maybe he gets in line, you know, in those movies, in like depictions of this, where he gets in the line of people
give ask questions to the Pharaoh or something.
As he gives an hour or so to the people, and what an interesting turn on that, right?
Yeah.
The person that's standing there is someone he actually knows.
And if we're taking this new version, even big is enough for everybody else too, because this used to be their general. So it's even an even bigger reason as well.
And when he reveals himself to the hall or whatever, everyone is aghast and shocked, including, of course, not limited to, the Livia Sigourney Weaver character.
Exactly.
Who's like, oh shit, well, we gotta kill this guy.
Let's not forget about her. She'll still be an integral part of this film, not just a throw-off character, because she's still a villainess in this film.
She's interesting. She's a great... That's a meaty character right there.
Which is just, thrown away. But
so, you know, if he comes back, he reveals himself, and what does he do? He asks Ramsey.
Asked him, he please let the people go. And then we have these fun scenes with, like, you know, prove that your God is real. You know, my God can make snakes and stuff. And
continue on with Bible verse, just because it's already a really great story right there. The magicians with the staffs and his. Yeah,
they tried to throw in their own version of the magicians, who's like explaining the plagues. He's like, yeah, you know, flies can lead to pestilence, and crocodiles will sometimes come out and kill a bunch of people. That's it's a normal thing.
And most importantly, we need this moment where Moses comes to Ramses asking him, please do this. I've been told that my God, who has spoken to me, I may sound crazy, but I'm telling you, you don't want what's coming.
Right.
Warning his brother.
Desperately trying to warn him.
That's the thing that we don't get in Ridley Scott's version of the Bible.
No.
Ridley Scott's King Ridley Scott's Bible has no Moses coming and pleading with his brother to help him, but causes Ramses to have a very conflicted mindset on this. But once all these plagues actually start happening, I think it starts to anger Ramses, who thinks, what, you think you're more powerful than me? I am a god, or so everyone keeps telling me.
Everyone around me who keeps
They're erecting statues of me. They're engraving my name on the walls. They're chanting to me. They've put me in their religious services.
And we as the audience can see that Ramses is too far gone. But because Moses is our hero, he's going to come back one last time, because this last plague he knows is the worst. He even disagrees with God that this is too far. This might be, and it could be great to see him actually go up to Ramses and say, like, I know all of these things are happening, and I know I know
you don't believe me.
You know you don't believe me.
I know that you think that my God isn't real. But if this isn't enough, the next one will be worse.
I can't live with myself letting this happen. Like, and maybe he brings, like, look, take the lamb's blood, put it on your, even if you don't believe me, just do it, please.
Just
for me, one last thing I ask.
Right, how much more interesting, instead of not telling him at all, which is what the movie does, Moses doesn't tell Ramses.
He doesn't even say what it is. He's just like, hey, maybe watch your kid tonight.
Something's gonna happen to your kid. Maybe, not sure, but it's gonna be tonight. It's like, wait, what?
And also,
instead of that, how much more interesting if he says, your kid's gonna die if you don't listen to me.
Yeah.
And gives him, put this on his door, put this on your doors, or your kid's going to die. And because of Ramses' pride and hubris
and his arrogance,
because he believes that this God isn't real, my God is real, he doesn't do what Moses asks, and in return he loses a son, which is the final straw, and he goes insane. If you want to end it with like a sword battle between Moses and Ramses, which is where it seemed like the story was going, but then didn't, that's actually, that's fine.
That's an interesting way. If you want to still have that dramatic a little bit, cap off, but
change it, have it end like Gladiator.
Yeah, if I wanted to, if I had to throw in my own 2 cents there with the ending, I mean, I kind of would like to see the parting of the Red Sea. I mean, we've got the plagues. Like, guys,
just have the man strike the rock with his staff and part the damn sea, please.
God, people, at least keep on parting the Red Sea.
That's like the, that is the image, the Moses leads the people image, and then the sea closes in around, and if you want to have a fight on the beach, like, Ramses is the only one that makes it through, and the entire Israelite people have to watch as, like, Moses and Ramses, like, duke it out or something. Cool. That's fine.
As long as we still get the goddamn parting of the Red Sea.
And then, however you want to end the movie, whether it's where they did it with the Ten Commandments, or if you want to end it, before
just getting on the other side,
on the bank of River Jordan,
because it's called Exodus, right? It's about making this Exodus. So once we're out, I feel you can
wrap it up.
You can wrap it up there. We don't need to get like oh, by the way, there were 10 Commandments, and there was a golden calf, and there was he's old now, and movie's end.
But because of all that we've seen so far, there should be this great scene where Ramses asks Moses to choose, who is your family? He says, these are my people, and he's like, we're your people. You grew up with us here in the palace. You're saying now that your people are out there? We're your people. Which is it, Moses? And that's how interesting.
How powerful.
And
if it's done well enough, we as the audience should be struggling with that too.
We should be struggling with it just as much as Moses is. And the only reason that we don't side with Ramses and the Egyptians and the pharaohs and everything is because he is unable to hear the other side, whereas the Israelites are trying to, Moses is trying to appeal to his better nature.
Exactly.
And how interesting that would be. And instead, we don't have that in this movie.
Nope.
But we want it
so bad.
And it's there.
It
all
really
there.
is. It's just, it's off screen. It's in other scenes that we didn't see.
That's right, yeah. It's with Sigourney Weaver. And
it's all the Sigourney Weaver scenes that were cut out. I'm convinced all of the good scenes had Sigourney Weaver in them. Oh, man. Well, guys, that was our punch-up of Exodus, Gods and Kings, and that'll be taking us into our game segment, Blockbuster Smash-Up.
Smash, 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 smash,
smash, smash, smash, All right, so this is our game segment, Blockbuster Smash-Up. This is when we're going to take one globally accepted bad film and one globally accepted good film.
That's right.
And smash them together.
Smash them.
For your enjoyment and possibly a very new and crazy strange film.
That you can feel free to go pitch.
and rent at your local store.
That's right. Just give us a writing credit.
Yeah,
on it.
exactly, please. So this episode, I'll actually be doing the globally accepted good film, and Todd will be doing the globally accepted bad film.
I have to say, I like doing both equally.
I do too.
But the bad one, there is something delicious about choosing
just like
an amazing torpedo to aim right at your head.
Oh yeah.
All right, so on the count of 3?
Yeah, on the count of 3. All
Okay.
right. 1, 2, 3. The Great Mouse
Waterworld.
Detective.
Oh! I'm sorry. Jay just chose what he knows is one of my all-time favorite movies. You've now covered my 2 all-time favorite Disney movies, like non-musical canon Disney movies, right?
I mean, God, guys, if
Mouse
you
Detective.
don't remember The Great Mouse
God.
Detective, and if you don't or haven't seen it, please rent it. But essentially, it is Sherlock Holmes as mice.
Yeah.
It is. His name is now Basil of Baker Street. He actually lives under Sherlock Holmes' house. They address it. It's like, there's Sherlock Holmes.
It's Sherlock Holmes in the window, and then it like goes down, and it's like, no, but this is the world of little mice that live in a completely parallel universe, including a small Queen of England.
Exactly, a small mouse queen, and a Moriarty who's a rat but wants to be called a mouse.
That's right. It's amazing. It's an incredible movie,
and
some great.
But you picked Waterworld.
I picked Waterworld,
which is a Kevin Costner film.
The 90s doozy that you probably have all seen or heard about.
And in some ways, there were some things about the movie that I did enjoy, but it is a
the world is incredible.
The world is incredible.
The world is super
The trading for
cool.
dirt was really cool, and like...
and that's why I chose it, because I think it's interesting to, like, you know, bad movie, great world. Mm-hmm. Because, I mean, just, if you don't know, the polar ice caps melt. Waterworld is about a world of water.
Surprise, everybody! How do we bring these together? So, we've got the Great Mouse Detective, and we've got the world of Waterworld. Okay, London has undertaken a massive flood, and like in the background we see shadows of people like moving away.
I think it should be a long time ago, though.
Okay, a long time ago.
Okay, so a long time ago, the Great Flood of 1918.
Yeah, something like that.
Right? This is alternate history of future kind of thing. And years later, we have Professor Ratigan. He has one eye and an eye patch and a glass eye that's in there, and he's taken up shop in the Royal Palace.
Yes, and he's controlling the cheese waterways of London and the networks there, and is kind of putting them under oppression.
By the way, all the humans have died, and only rats and mice are still alive.
Only rats and mice.
We skipped over that part.
Yeah, there was one part there about this apocalypse. Who cares?
It's kind of like the plague, but it like all the humans are gone.
Yep, all gone.
It's just all the rodents that are left.
Yeah.
So we come across
Kevin Basil Costner.
Kevin Costner of Baker Street.
Yep.
Who lives on the roof of Sherlock
221
Holmes'
Baker Street. Oh my God, that's perfect.
Lives on the roof of old Sherlock Holmes, his place.
And he is a spelunker by night. Spelunker's not the right term.
He's a scuba diver.
He's a scuba diver.
He's a scuba diver and explorer by night.
And he does. He's kind of like an odd job PI for this new watery world.
Yeah, that's great. And he's helped by a wayward traveler from the Americas,
Dr. Watson, and he's there with his daughter. But he's brought her specifically because he's bringing her in for hiding. Because
something going on in America.
Some things are going on.
Maybe there's in this alternate history. How about Fievel Goes West?
I was just going to say it inhabits Fievel Goes West world.
But it's in America.
Yep.
Right? And like the Germans, the cats have taken over the Americas, and London's the last stronghold. You know why? Because Professor Ratigan is like, I got this.
I'm controlling this,
and
stuff,
he can
guys.
take care of Cat Hitler.
So like a background, very quick background. Fievel Goes West exists here, and the cats, quote unquote, Germans have taken over America. So Watson and his daughter has come here, and specifically because everyone's out looking for her because she has the map to the great cheese storage of London.
What is it, like in Greenland or something?
Something like that. It's this fabled cheese storage that like they, all the humans when like before the apocalypse happened, it was a big cheese supply went missing, and it's fabled to be out there. So we've got our girl. Basil's got a protector. He's been a loner for a while, but meeting Watson, meeting his daughter, kind of endears him to them, and maybe he doesn't have to be a lone PI anymore, only scuba diving for the world and the home he used to have.
But then
Professor
Ratigan sicks his bat
Oh, yes.
His peg-legged bat.
In this new...
Fidget scoops up Watson's daughter, not knowing maybe that she has the mat. No, they know she has the mat.
They know she has the mat.
Yeah, so...
Scoops her up, knows she has the
mat.
mat, because Radigan, again, controlling the waterways and the cheese supply of future dystopian London, wants to get his hands on this fabled cheese, because, he's oppressing the people of Waterworld London, because since the cheese supply is so restricted, they have to rely on Radigan for everything. So, Watson and his daughter and Basil know if they release this cheese to the dystopian water world of London,
Radigan will have no power
no
whatsoever
power, no
anymore.
control. So now it becomes this race across the dystopian London water world
There's
to get this fabled
There's
cheese.
hot air balloons.
Yep, there's hot air balloons.
Which show up both in both movies.
It will still culminate at Big Ben, because Big Ben is so tall.
It's so tall that it's the top, the thing that's at the top. It'll still culminate in this incredible scene in Great Mouse Detective.
of course.
They find the cheese mountain. And
they foil Radigan's plot.
That's right.
And they release it to the masses, and then we get, Waterworld 2 and 3.
So what would it be called? The Great...
the Great Mouse Waterworld.
The Great... the Great Mouse Waterworld Detective.
Amazing. All right, guys. So that was episode 11 of Blockbuster Punch-Up and our review of Exodus, Gods and Kings. We'll be posting a new episode every other week. Please leave us a review or any comments on iTunes. It really helps people find the show. And if you'd like to download more episodes or check out other similar podcasts like Roll to Seas or Because Comics, head over to partialarc.com. That's arc with a C. Of course, you can email us any questions at blockbusterpunchup@gmail.com, and, any suggestions for more Great Mouse Detective sequels,
yes.
because we would love to hear all of those. And, of course, please follow us on Twitter at partialarc, and you can follow Todd on Twitter and Instagram at TG11.
There you go.
Thanks for listening, and see you on the next episode of Blockbuster Punch-Up.
Let's go home.